Types of internal audit. There are three types of internal audit: compliance audit, management audit, and operations audit. We will discuss them one by one. Compliance audit. Compliance audit is the evaluation of the degree of compliance, supervision, or control with laws, regulations, managerial policies, systems, and processes of government, including compliance with accountability measures, ethical standards, and contractual obligations. It also covers the determination of whether or not all other internal control components are well designed and properly implemented. This type of audit is a necessary first step to and a part of management and operations audits. So, how do we do compliance audit? First, conduct a baseline assessment of components of the internal control system, control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, and monitoring and evaluation, and match them with the established criteria, such as the provisions in the Philippine Constitution, laws and jurisprudence, presidential issuances, issuances of national government agencies, oversight bodies like the Commission on Audit and Civil Service Commission, and others, as well as issuances of the LGU through ordinances, resolutions, executive orders, memorandum, office orders, and other directives. Then, check the veracity of compliance with the criteria of the concerned audit area and whether it is well designed and or properly implemented. The output is based on the conclusion of the audit if it is in compliance with laws, regulations, and policies. Management audit. Management audit is a separate evaluation of the effectiveness of internal controls, adopted in the operating and support services units systems to determine whether or not they achieve the control objectives over a period of time or a specific date. It includes the determination of the degree of compliance of control or supervision with laws, regulations, managerial policies, accountability measures, ethical standards, and contractual obligations covering specific time frames. It is a review and appraisal of the systems and processes, organizational and staffing structures, operations and management practices, records, reports, and performance standards of the agencies or units covered. Management audit may encompass a comprehensive and thorough examination of an organization or a specific operating or support system or work processes. Operating systems include aspects such as the rules of the engagement in the conduct of arrest, search, and seizure in the case of investigating agencies, and the rules on vaccination and immunization in the case of health facilities. Examples of support services systems are the Human Resource Management or HRM, Financial Management System or FMS, Quality Management System or QMS, Risk Management System or RMS, and their subsystems. The audit is conducted to identify issues and control weaknesses or management deficiencies in the organization, thus providing the LCE with courses of action to address the problem area. The management audit flow diagram. So how do we do a management audit? First, conduct a baseline assessment of internal control components of the internal control system, control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, and monitoring and evaluation. Then, conduct a control significance and materiality assessment on the control objectives, safeguard of assets, check accuracy and reliability of accounting data, adherence to managerial policies, compliance with laws, regulations, and policies, and ensure for ease of operations, efficiency, effectiveness, economical, and ethical. The assessment should be conducted across the operations, support services, and general and administrative services. This is to see if the existing control is effective or if there are gaps or issues in the control management. Control effectiveness. Management audit focuses on results, evaluating the effectiveness and sustainability of supervision or control by reviewing or appraising existing measures and methods. It includes compliance audit and root cause analysis. When performed correctly, it is a potentially useful evaluation method because it can be the basis of corrective or preventive measures. Control effectiveness refers to the achievement of control objectives. When these control objectives are achieved, it can be concluded that management controls are effective. Management control refers to internal control. which comprises the plan of organization and all the coordinated methods and measures adopted within an agency to ensure that resources are used consistent with laws, regulations, and policies. Resources are safeguarded against loss, wastage, and misuse. Financial and non-financial information are reliable, accurate, and timely. And operations are economical, efficient, effective, and ethical. Management controls are essential in managing any organization. It is not enough to enact laws or issue regulation to appropriate budgets or to establish policies if there can be no effective controls to ensure that they will be properly implemented. Operations audit. Operation audit is a separate evaluation of the outcome, output, process, and input to determine whether government operations, programs, projects are effective, efficient, ethical, and economical, or 4Es. It is likewise includes the determination of the degree of compliance of supervision or control with laws, regulations, managerial policies, accountability measures, and contractual obligations. Operations audit of organizations, programs, and projects involves an evaluation whether or not performance targets or expected results were achieved. The importance of assessing the 4Es of government operations is to contribute to better public services, accountability, and governance. The matter of outcomes, outputs, processes, and inputs, as well as their correlation with the goals and of effectiveness, efficiency, ethicality, economy of operations are the focus in the evaluation. Operations Audit Flow Diagram. This is the Operations Audit Flow Diagram. The 4Es of operations are linked to the operations process, from input to process, to output, to outcome. The input, which consists of laws, rules, and policies, the mandates, programs, projects, and activities, organizational structure, and resources is evaluated whether it is economical, using the list of resources within a period. Then, the process which includes the implementation and performance review through monitoring and evaluation, is evaluated whether it is efficient, doing things right based on the given resources on a given period, as well as the ethical side of the process, if it complies with the code of conduct and ethical standards and other related ethical components of the services that are provided and offered as output. The output is reviewed and assessed if it is effective, doing the right things, wherein the output is achieving the desired outcome or the benefits and impact or change. The outcome is the desired state of input and has to be assessed whether it is effective and reach its full potential or met the minimum targets. Work-back approach. Essential to the conduct of operations audit is the assessment of progress with respect to processes, projects, and programs and the respective outputs and outcomes or impact change towards improving the condition of intended beneficiaries. This is the work-back approach of operations audit, wherein the evaluation is done on the outcome, output, processes, input as they relate to the 4Es. This approach starts with a set of objectives, statutory policy objectives, that the LC wants to achieve, or expected outcomes and outputs, which have been formulated in a smart manner, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. The work-back approach of operation requires proper identification of programs, projects, processes, and the respective outputs and outcomes. This is to establish causality between programs and projects and processes, as well as the respective outputs and outcomes. The work-back approach diagram. This is the diagram of the work-back approach wherein regular operations audit start from input to process to output to outcome. It shall start with the outcome as outcome audit evaluation whether the objective set, benefits, or impact and change are reached, then going back to input evaluation on the laws, rules, and policies, mandate, and others. So what is programs, projects, and process? So 1. Activities are equivalent to a process. Activity is defined as a recurring work process that contributes to the implementation of a program or sub-program. A group of interrelated activities with inputs to deliver outputs is considered a process. These activities must add value to the inputs to generate intended outputs. The organization can discontinue an activity that does not contribute to the attainment of a particular output. A project is a component of a program. The Administrative Code of 1987, as amended, defines program and projects. A program refers to the functions, activities necessary for the performance of a major purpose for which a government agency is established, while a project is a component of a program covering a homogeneous group of activities that result in the accomplishment of an identifiable output. Programs, outcomes, and outputs. An LGU is expected to achieve the organizational outcome, which is a short to medium-term result produced by an office, unit that contributes to the achievement of its legislated mandate and is achieved through the delivery of its programs. The achievement of the said organizational outcome will be through the delivery of the programs of the LGU. The achievement of a program performance could be measured through its output and outcome indicators. Specifically, an outcome is any change, effect, or result brought about of an LGU's programs or strategies upon individuals, social structures, or the physical environment. On the other hand, an output is any good or service that LGU delivers to a target population or client group external to the LGU. Our example here is the Comprehensive Livelihood Program, the objective of which is to provide support to various groups and or individuals who may need it for them to recover from the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Down to the provision of livelihood options, the LGU, offices, and departments, as their project which skill development is included, down to specific activities such as the implementation of livelihood, monitoring and evaluation, and conduct of training. Identification of delivery units. Organizations are composed of delivery units defined as the primary subdivision of the LGU performing substantive line functions, technical services, or administrative support. As reflected in the LGU organizational structure or functional chart, the identification of delivery unit will depend on the type of government entity, with due consideration to its mandate, organizational level, and scope of operations. In the LGU, there are offices, departments, the highest of which is the local chief executive, followed by the presiding officer of the Sanggunian, then Sanggunian members, then department heads of the concerned offices, then division chiefs within the offices departments, then unit chiefs within the division. Our example here is from the municipality of Cantilan. As you can see, the highest in the organizational structure is the mayor down to the lowest level. Outcome, output, process, and input evaluation. In the workbook approach, auditors perform sequential evaluations of the outcome, output, process, and inputs. These evaluations are conducted to determine the extent of the direct contribution of inputs, processes, and outputs to the achievement of the outcome or impact or change. Outcome evaluation. In the workbook approach of operations audit, an outcome evaluation is conducted to assess the contribution and proper attribution of an LG outcome to the benefits, impact, or change in the condition of the intended beneficiaries by comparing the outcomes with the baseline data. An estimate of what would have happened in the absence of programs or department, division, unit is determined. In the conduct of outcome evaluation, proper identification and attribution of the outputs to the outcome or impact or change to the intended beneficiaries should be carried out. Likewise, an assessment should be made on the extent to which the program outcome or impact change fulfills clients' citizens' needs and expectations, as well as the contribution of such program outcome to raising the quality of life of intended beneficiaries. Output evaluation. An output evaluation is undertaken to assess the extent to which a program achieves its output, products, goods, and services. It focuses on outputs to determine the effectiveness of a program, but a project or process activity may also be assessed to understand how the outputs are produced. Output evaluation establishes causality of project processes outputs to program outputs, as well as correlation of these processes interrelated activities to a particular program. Process evaluation. Process evaluation involves the assessment of the efficiency and ethicality of a process. transformation of an input to an output. A review is conducted to assess the process as to the efficiency in the use of available resources or inputs, as well as its conformity to norms of conduct and ethical standards. A review is also conducted on interrelated activities to determine whether or not processes have been properly implemented, and there is proper conduct of risk response, performance and compliance reviews, as well as the contribution of each activity with the process to the achievement of a process output. Likewise, inputs elements such as policies, organizational structure, resources, client or citizens' needs, and requirements to achieve the process outputs are properly identified. Input evaluation. Input evaluation is the assessment of the appropriate and economical sourcing and leveraging of resources inputs such as statutory policy, mandate, organization, laws, regulations, managerial policies, resources, clients and citizens' needs. This is also a review on whether or not resources inputs are acquired at the right cost, at the right time, at the right place, in the right quantity, of the right quality. Input resources should be evaluated if they have the ability to meet the requirements of quality outputs. Input evaluation determines whether or not input resources are quality inputs that contribute to the delivery of quality outputs through which client citizen needs and requirements are met. The 4 E's: efficient, effective, ethical, and economical of operations audit. Public service requires that organization outputs and outcomes are measured in terms of how this directly affect the quantity, quality, timeliness, and cost of public service delivery through effective, efficient, ethical, and economical operations. Effective means being able to do the right things. Effectiveness refers to the achievement of objectives. It involves an assessment of the outcomes of the department, bureau, regional office, programs, and outputs of the program which accrue to the public, measured in terms of performance measures or targets. Effectiveness is concerned with the relationship between goals and objectives, outputs and outcomes, and the stipulated aims being met by the means employed, the output delivered, and when aggregated will achieve the outcome. Are the impacts or change observed really the results of operation rather than other circumstances? In auditing effectiveness, operation audit may, for instance, undertake the following: assess whether or not government programs have been formulated and approved with clear and specific objectives. 2. Assess whether or not the means provided, such as budget, for a new or government program are adequate, consistent, and suitable or relevant. Number 3. Assess whether or not the quantity, quality, and timeliness of the public services met the client citizens' need or the statutory objectives. Number 4. Assess the effectiveness of government investments and programs and or their individual components, such as ascertain whether or not the goals and objectives are met. And lastly, identify the relative utility of alternative approaches to yield better performance or eliminate factors that inhibit project effectiveness. Efficient means being able to do things right, given the available resources or inputs and within a specified time frame. This is about delivering a given quantity and quality of outputs with the minimum inputs or maximizing outputs with a given quantity and quality of inputs. It follows the principle of prioritization and leveraging by determining the critical path and assigning available resources. Efficiency means optimum utilization of resources, keeping in mind the objectives of the organization. The efficiency of our process is audited by examining the inputs based on available resources utilized, determining whether or not policy and regulatory measures are properly in place, or assessing the degree of leverage with other public service sector organizations. Any finding on efficiency is usually other relative, while occasionally inefficiency is immediately apparent. A finding on efficiency can be formulated by means of comparison with similar activities with other periods or with a standard that has been explicitly adopted. Ethical means being able to conform to the norms of conduct and ethical standards as contained in the Republic Act No. 6713 dated February 20, 1989, otherwise known as the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. Every public official and employee is expected to observe the standards of personal conduct in the discharge and execution of official duties, which, among others, include the following: commitment to public interest and professionalism. Lastly, economical means being able to perform functions and tasks using the least amount of resources, inputs, within a specific time frame. It implies that the resources input should be acquired at the right cost, at the right time, at the right place, in the right quantity, of the right quality. Organizations are enjoined to exercise prudence and restraint in the use of their resources by focusing on their core functions and prioritizing their projects to those which would contribute best to the attainment of agency's objective. A compliance audit is made in an input evaluation, economic side, adherence to the Government Procurement Reform Act or RA number 9184 dated January 10, 2003, and its revised implementing rules and regulation will also help in ensuring economy.